theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. There's a commentary that is often attributed to the great Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn, but I believe incorrectly attributed to him. I think the author of this is unknown, but it in no way undermines the veracity of the observation. And it has a particular applicability today, I believe. I know this passage isn't in Gulag Archipelago, so I've tried to find it in Solzhenitsyn's writings, but I haven't, so I don't think so. I think it is unattributed. But anyway, the salience. The most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives as they have lived them are over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be, which is why when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at the people's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but it will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who just wanted to be left alone. I say that, or I read that, it's not my words. Wish they were my words because I think they're that insightful. But I read that passage to say this: we better get our act together both culturally and practically, lest that warning come to pass. That's what I fear. We talked a lot about culturally, a little bit about practically, talking about things like security at events where there are people who have credible death threats against them on a routine basis, like yesterday at Utah Valley. And like the President of the United States, who, by the way, we didn't really talk about, but now after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I mean, this visit that he and Vance and Hegseth made to a D.C. restaurant where they were, once they got inside the restaurant, were confronted by Code Pink protesters.
Happy to see you. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you.
Free D.C., free Palestine. Trump is the Hitler of our time. How did those pruny harridans from Code Pink get into the restaurant? And why wasn't, from the video, you don't see Secret Service anywhere to be found? There are knives and stuff on tables around. I mean, I'm not a security expert. I'm just trying to think practically. For more on all this, please be joined by Susan Crabtree, RealClearPolitics.com's national political correspondent, co-author of the book Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten All of Us. Fool's Gold is Susan Crabtree's book. Susan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Dan, as always.
We have the D.C. restaurant, which some people have raised concerns about, and I just did. And then we also have your latest story on the Secret Service. This is not good. Give us your story and your perspective.
Yes, it's not good at all. In the wake of the terrible, horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk, who I did not know. I won't pretend to know, but I was on his podcast several times, and he amplified my Secret Service coverage in the aftermath of the assassination of Donald Trump attempt on him. I will say that the Secret Service is under enormous pressure and are not rising to the occasion. That my reporting, I was talking to the White House just hours before that terrible scene in the restaurant, D.C. restaurant, just a block away from the White House. The Secret Service told me that these individuals, these Code Pink women who, show up at congressional hearings and interrupt them on a regular basis for the last, I don't know, as long as I've been covering Washington, which is decades. Unfortunately, I'd like to admit
they're not aging. You're aging well. They are not. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That they had a reservation. So that raises big red flags for me and others. And this restaurant owner is a big Democratic contributor, as been pointed out online. And, there's whether this is coming from the Secret Service itself, the agents themselves, because this was supposed to be an off-the-record event, meaning that it was kind of last-minute planned, and so you don't do advanced work. You don't sort of screen the site. You don't bring the dogs in and do sniffing. You want the individuals, okay? So, but my question is an obvious one. They had these big flags. Some of them were smaller banners that they unfurled, but they had a huge pro-Palestinian flag. Did the Secret Service agents not see that when they were screening their bags? It just, again, attention to detail, which was a problem I was already talking to the White House and the Secret Service about just hours before, because a Glock, semi-automatic handgun, the Secret Service missed it, got through on Trump National, which is a golf course in Sterling, where Trump was golfing over Labor Day weekend.
Sterling, Virginia.
Sterling, Virginia, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so the Secret Service was already answering my questions about a breach that caused an internal investigation, and one of their uniformed division officers who was in charge of searching that bag that had the Glock in it that got through, he's now put on administrative leave. And that is considered a significant breach. And now I was talking to the White House about whether they should whether President Trump believes there should be magnetometers placed on his golf courses when he's there, because the Secret Service is not, doing its job. Basically, it's having some issues, and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
So you had a member,
it's a troubled agency.
Sorry, but you had a member at this club who had a Glock in his bag. He forgot he had a gun in his bag, as I read your story, and it passes. Secret Service doesn't find it when they're searching bags and doing their advanced work. And
right.
He brings it to the attention of Secret Service, and he's like, well, what the hell? How did you guys not find this? He volunteered it because he didn't know, and then he finds he's got this gun in his bag, and he's like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I got this through. And so he brings it to the attention. So he's like, you guys need to do a better job of this because, what if I was not just what if I was not a fan of Trump, or I was something other than just a member of this club? I mean, and then the restaurant incident on top of it, it's just like, it doesn't seem like we've seen, as you were basically intimating, the sort of reforms that were obviously required and were discussed were coming after Butler.
That's exactly right. It's just one of many of the problems we've seen with the Secret Service in the wake of Butler. We had cat fights outside of President Obama's house that I've witnessed because of the DEI hiring situations. We've seen that the people that were responsible for Butler got a very big slap on the wrist, 11 to 40 days on paid administrative leave, and their supervisors who signed off on the Butler plan and didn't figure out that there was nobody on that AGR roof that Thomas Crooks got his shots off. at Trump and killed Corey Comparatore. And they signed off on the plan, including Sean Curran, the Trump's choice for the director, signed off on the Butler security plan without somebody on that roof. His deputies did. They all got promotions. One of them now is leading the Eric and Laura Trump detail. And now there's this big, I'll disclose this with you, and breaking some news here on your show, Dan. There is a debate within the Trump administration over Sean Curran's future because of all these problems and lapses. There was an incident at the White House recently in which the chief of staff of the Secret Service pushed someone through security that wasn't supposed to be there and got into the White House. Now, they didn't pose a threat, but it was disconcerting. And so now there's an internal debate going on. Sean Curran has his supporters. He has his detractors. This is going on at a very high level. But the chief counsel was recently forced to resign because he had a road rage incident with a government vehicle. And in New Jersey, going to a Democratic judge's swearing-in ceremony. Meanwhile, the Secret Service is not answering my questions about their retention issues, whether they've made any progress. They haven't. Spoiler alert, they have not. They are in deep problems. And there was a report by the Inspector General that came out recently saying the counter snipers are they're completely they have very few members, 73% understaffed, and so that I knew, but they will not tell me the numbers. They will not give me any update on their retention efforts and their DEI efforts. What happened to all those DEI officials that were put on administrative leave at the beginning of the administration? I've asked repeatedly about that, and they cannot tell me because that's employee privacy concerns. Well, I think, with all of the problems of the assassination attempts, you can issue a statement. Sean Curran doesn't issue statements. He doesn't comment on anything. He's this behind-the-scenes director who, even within his own ranks, his lack of communication with his own agents and officers is a problem. They don't feel they're leaving in droves, especially the senior leadership in the Secret Service.
Well, I mean, it sounds like at minimum, if maybe as a go no go moment, he needs to be pulled before a congressional committee and testify, in an open committee, so that people get some answers from the boss, as it were, here, and we'll see how he performs. I don't, unless they just want to clip him altogether and replace him, but. Yeah, I mean, you can like him or not like him. It's not about like or not like. It's about performance, and we're just not seeing the performance. And after yesterday, of course, there's going to be heightened there should be heightened vigilance, and yeah. With respect to yesterday, I mean, do you have any perspective on I don't know what the response should be, and other than you have to have universities and maybe with state and local exercise more vigilance or devote more resources when a prominent conservative is going to speak on a college campus or going to speak in an area that is quote unquote soft target, elevated positions, and the things like that. I mean, what is your security perspective on that for covering the Secret Service so long?
Yeah, so the Secret Service is already so terribly understaffed, as I mentioned. So it can't be that the Secret Service covers every conservative influencer unless Congress wants to reevaluate that position. Congress and local state legislatures, but this is kind of now at the point where it could be a federal issue because you can't leave it up to individual states to protect influencers, and state legislators, lawmakers, and it's up to it's just a national debate conversation that we should be having. Certainly, you need to beef up. We thought this was a very safe venue for Charlie Kirk because it was this conservative campus in Utah, very heavily LDS community. So he probably wasn't taking even he was probably taking the precautions he usually does, although he did have security. He has his own security team there, but it was a team of 8 who, were reactive. Yeah, I mean, this is a national conversation we need to have. We need to have a conversation about deranged individuals and whether we should be more aggressive in committing them. We've had a series of incidents, sad, the Catholic school being shot up in recent weeks, and now a Colorado school yesterday. And we need to figure out what we're going to do about mental health in this country. And that's a state, local, and federal issue. Certainly when it comes to Charlie Kirk, I think myself and some of his supporters, many of his supporters believe that the power of his death has been released in all of us, and it is a turning point, and we will do our best to carry on his legacy of standing up and speaking your mind and not being cowed into submission when things like the president's life is on the line and others, our continuity of government is on the line, and our very practice of democracy, the ability to participate in democracy, is on the line. I think we need to be vigilant and more vigilant with the Secret Service, obviously, and Congress needs to have hearings on the reform or the lack thereof that the Secret Service has implemented in the wake of Butler. And it does not matter who appointed, whether it's a Trump appointee or a Biden appointee or whomever. We need the scrutiny. Everyone, these government agencies respond to sunlight. That's a lot of what the Secret Service has a reputation of being reactive. We have to change that. And it's Congress's duty to provide some of that sunlight. My stories can only do so much. And the whistleblowers, I give the credit to the whistleblowers in the Secret Service who have put their careers and livelihoods on the line and their very lives on the line to protect this president, his cabinet, and our democracy.
The book is Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. The author, Susan Crabtree, RealClearPolitics.com's national political correspondent. Susan, thank you all, as always, for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you so much, Dan. Take care.
Yep. And Susan Crabtree, join us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This